Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is Psychic Medium Raymond Guzman, and today I'm going to be doing quite a different type of podcast, not your typical celebrity psychic reading that I normally do, or my horoscopes. And from time to time, I will be dropping some gems and different types of podcasts, that my viewers and those of you that support me and are on my, I call you all family because you are like soul family to me. Those of you that are subscribed to my channel and that genuinely do enjoy the videos that I do for y'all. So this is quite different, and it's going to be very interesting because up until now, I don't think I've really discussed this with many people, not even in my book. I don't believe I included this in my book, but today's topic is about visions of hell and heaven, and I'm going to be discussing whether or not, from a psychic perspective, from a spiritualist perspective, if heaven and hell are for real, and giving you basically specific visions that were shared with me that I had during a dream. Two different dreams, in fact, at two different times, and then different apparitions and things that I've seen throughout my life in the last couple of years. So I will say this is not going to be something. Viewer discretion is advised. Listening discretion is advised. For those of you that are sensitive and that are empaths, you may not want to listen to this. Again, I repeat, this is a discretion advisory, that the things that I'm going to be sharing with you are not pleasant, and they are a very, very real things that I saw and visions being revealed to me of what heaven looks like and what hell looks like. And really the discretion's not for the heaven, but more of what it is for the hell, so or the place that is called hell. So the first thing that I will say is that if you are sensitive or an empath, you may want to shut this off now. It's not for you to listen to, because it gets kind of gruesome, the things that I saw and I'm going to be talking about. So I will also start off by saying that I am a spiritualist. I don't practice any kind of religion. I was raised Catholic, and then after about 12 years old, 13 years old, I went to an all-black church. It was a Baptist church, and I got baptized there, and I attended that church for about 12 years or so. Give or take maybe a couple of years. But after that, then I completely drew away from all churches, and I'm more of a spiritualist. But I do believe the core principles of God. I do believe in God. I do believe in Jesus Christ. I do believe in the angels and all the main biblical figures. Like when I say main, I mean like Mary, the Mary, Mother of God. God himself, the Holy Spirit, Jesus, and I also believe in that the devil does exist. So I know that kind of sounds a little, out there, or people that would be tuning in. How can you be a spiritualist and still believe, what is taught in religion? And I don't believe everything that is, not everything in the Bible, not everything that's taught in religion is accurate. There are a lot of things, because these are texts and documents that are misconstrued and have been written by man over and over. So for the intents and purposes of this video, I'm not going to get into that, but mainly share exactly what I experienced and what I saw. So that way, those of you that are listening can kind of get an understanding. I've worked with my spirit guides and souls that have passed, that walk in God's white light. The revelations that I have received, and I had heard, from them, from people who have passed on when I channel them, is that, there is heaven. And being that I had a near-death experience, I actually got to see what heaven looks like. But again, it's kind of hard to believe for many of you that may be listening, unless you've had a near-death experience, or you yourself have had visions of, what heaven or hell looks like. So it was right around when I was 31 when I had my near-death experience, and basically my heart stopped. I guess a few months after that, I had some dreams that were very, very connected to what I call other dimensions. Now, when I think of heaven and hell, I think of them as dimensions. On the spiritual side, there are different levels of different spiritual dimensions. There's like a hierarchy. So like the good souls with good karma, the ones that have, been here a long time and have done the work and that have, more of an angelic soul would be at the very top, which would be considered like heaven. And then there's different layers. Then there is like a middle place, which is like a purgatory, which is basically where souls go to be kind of that were not so good, that had some, I'm not going to refer to this as sin, but that had like bad choices in life that need to be cleansed or to process things before they can acclimate and go up to the higher realms, spiritual realms or dimensions. And then there are the lower vibration, the lower dimensions, which hold the rapists, murderers, sexual, offenders, things like that. The people that have not, really fixed that karma that they have had here on earth. I'm not going to refer to as fix that sin or fix, that, because that's not how I see it. I do see it from a spiritualist perspective that people do have sin, and they do, they not sin, but they have made mistakes and they have done bad things here on earth, and some people are very evil. Those souls are held accountable. So like I said, I've said this before in a lot of videos, you may have heard this, especially when I do celebrity psychic readings, that we are held accountable when we pass for everything that we've done here in the physical world during our most recent lifetime. We do go through a life review, which we see, the soul sees everything that we've done here in the world. We get to actually like relive it and replay. Like if you've seen a lot of those shows where they go back in the past and kind of see events and stuff that they've done, that's kind of like exactly what the soul goes through on a big screen, and you get to see everything that you've done, the pain that you've inflicted, the people that you've hurt, people that have hurt you, how you felt. It's like you get to see it, but it's very sped up on the other side. So like it would be considered like maybe 4 or 5 years here in the physical world, but for them it's like just a couple of minutes and they see it on the other side, because time is not the same. We are governed by time here in the physical world. The spirit realm is not governed by time. There is no such thing as a 24-hour period. It's a very different situation, a very different type of existence and frequency on the other side. So maybe it was like 2014 was when I had my near-death experience. So maybe around later in 2014, around maybe June or July, I had my near-death experience around February 2014. So it was around maybe like June or July, I had a dream, and I'm going to start with what hell looked like. Again, if at this point you are tuning in and you are a sensitive, you're an empath, or you're someone that just doesn't want to hear that, or you kind of are fearful of what I'm going to describe, it is very gruesome. You may want to not listen to this. Just cut off the video. So for those of you that are listening, I'm about to describe what I saw in a dream. Now, something that a lot of you don't know about me is that my purpose has been revealed to me as I had gone through the near-death experience. I'm not just on a spiritual path as healing people as a healer, because I am a healer. When I do my psychic readings, I don't advertise myself as a healer, which I really should, but my psychic readings and the psychic work or spiritual work that I do here is very much healing to people. But I am also someone that knows how to, or I know that my life mission here on earth is to battle forces of darkness, and that is something that I've done a lot in the astral realm, and also when I am asleep, just in regular dreams. I've caught myself, and I remember these lucid, vivid dreams of me, acting as like a spiritual warrior, fighting demons and the devils. So, okay, so I'm gonna get into the dream now. So, it was a dream in the early morning hours, maybe about 1 a.m. In the summer month of 2014. And I remember that I immediately I was asleep again. It was a dream, and I was in this place that looked like a dungeon. The way that I describe it is that the walls on each side were like a gray stone, like kind of like a castle, like you would see on, if you look at movies, or or if you've ever been to a castle, it's kind of like a gray color. And it was a very, very large place with a lot of darkness all around it, which I couldn't see further than maybe 10 or 15 feet away from me. All along the sides of the walls, there were torches, fire torches hanging. Well, not hanging, but like somehow, I don't know what you call it, on a scone or whatever you call that holds a torch. But if you get that kind of, if you understand what I'm saying. And the screams and the agony of souls being tortured was very, very, very horrific. It still gives me chills up and down my spine to even realize that this place could even exist. On the ceilings, what I was able to see through the ceilings on this place or level that I call hell were heads, human heads, decapitated or severed, hanging. I know that sounds very crazy, very morbid, very macabre. But this is exactly what was in my vision or dream. I call it a dream, but it's a vision of what I got to see through a dream. And the agony, the souls that were being tortured, not necessarily by demons or the devil or anything like that, but just, I guess, living in that. What I was revealed later on, and I'll get into that in a minute, is that the souls that are there are living out the pain that they inflicted to human beings here on earth. They're basically living that same hell and experiencing whatever they did to people down there on that level. And I can't even begin to tell you how creepy, how morbid, how ugly this thing was, that this whole area that I was in. And I remember myself walking. I continued to walk, and there was a stench of decay, a stench of death all around. And I remember as I got to maybe a few couple of yards down this pathway, there was this devil, or the devil himself. I don't know if it was the devil or it was a demon, but it was dressed all in black, like a ceremonial robe, all black. You could not see its face at all. It had no face, and it did have a hand. The skin was very it had like claws on the hand, like long claws, like a raptor, like kind of like a dinosaur type of thing. Fingernails, and the skin was a pale grayish, purplish color. And I remember as I got closer, I saw it, and it stopped in front of me, and I confronted the thing, and I stuck out my hand kind of like in a stop motion. And I remember I kept casting it out, casting it back in the name of God, and completely, prayers. I still believe in praying to God. I still believe in the Lord's Prayer. I do believe in, that's a core of who I am, of what I was taught. So those prayers, and Saint Michael the Archangel, those prayers are never going to leave me. I'm never going to abandon prayer. But I got to see it, and I kept praying. As I extended my hand, it retreated. It felt fear. I don't know if to this point if it felt fear, but I have in my actual awakened state have casted out things in my physical environment that I have seen. So I am someone that has that ability, and there's a lot of you out there that would be listening that may be ashamed or may be scared to come out, but you have those abilities as well. It's an ability to see the darker side of the spiritual realm. Not everyone that is a medium sees spirits only. They can see demons, they can see entities and other worlds and other dimensions. So yeah, that was my experience of hell itself and why I saw it. Now, after I had that experience and I woke up, I remember asking my spirit guides and praying to God. I wasn't scared, but I guess, on a subconscious level, I was kind of like questioning. It did kind of freak me out a little bit. I think that's human nature, why I got to see it. And basically what I was told by my spirit guides was that I was allowed to see it because I needed to, for the work that I'm doing now, helping souls here on earth and helping humanity. In many ways, I had to see this to know that it is real and to be prepared, because there is going to be a day in which there is a spiritual battle between forces of light and darkness, which is already being carried out in the world in many ways already. But there is going to be a time when there will be a huge battle between the forces of good and the forces of darkness. Because a lot of people that are spiritualists may believe this or may not agree with me, but our work here that we do is to elevate consciousness, or at least that's one of my missions here on earth. But I know that I'm also a spiritual warrior, and that I was sent here with a purpose to defeat darkness. And I've had some other experiences that I'm going to be talking about in a minute after I share the vision of heaven. Okay, so then maybe about around August, I had two important dreams. The first one, it was August 14th, 2014. I'll never forget it. I had a dream, and in the dream, I was standing outside of my home, and I went into the driveway, and I saw the Virgen de Guadalupe, or the Virgin of Guadalupe, the Blessed Mother Mary. But she's known throughout different cultures and different religions, or different cultures, different divisions of religions, like in different ways. But the one that I saw typically with like Latin American communities is the Virgen de Guadalupe, which is the Virgin Mary. And she's dressed, some of you that may have seen the depictions, she's dressed in kind of like a greenish or bluish kind of robe with stars. She has a gold crown, and that she's wearing red also. And then at the feet of her, she has roses, and then she has like this light that's emanating from her. So I saw her, and she was standing very, very tall, probably about, I want to say about 10 to 14 feet tall, like a giant. That's the image that I saw. It was very, very big, and I looked at her, and she kept looking at me, and I just felt so much peace. I felt so much peace, and I felt healed in many ways. And around this time was when I started embarking more onto my spiritual journey, already helping people. And it kind of made sense. And, I didn't need any kind of insight as to why I saw her. I feel like I knew just in the dream and the vision that I had of the Virgen de Guadalupe, the Virgin Mary, or the Blessed Mother, as many people would refer to her. I just felt this, this sense of, being very connected to her. And to this day, I feel like she's one of the Ascended Masters that I do work with a lot. And then, there's been, I don't know if a lot of you that come from a Catholic background or other religions that maybe have heard of the Fatima sisters. Now, these were a group of sisters that, and a brother, that were very young, and I believe it was somewhere in Italy, if I'm not mistaken. It's been years, but basically they had apparitions of the Blessed Mother to them, and they were like clairvoyants in many ways themselves, and they got to share a lot of these visions with people, and a lot of people sought them out, and they were believed that they, miracles were performed in a certain site. But again, I don't want to get too much into religion, because this is not the point of this podcast. I'm sharing with you what I've seen, and I haven't done, this kind of podcast in quite a while. So these are a lot of questions that I get from people that are in religion, or that have, a thirst for spiritual knowledge, but perhaps they are interested in knowing, is there really a heaven or a hell? So my answer to that is that yes, there is both, but I don't refer to them as really as heaven or hell, but as levels or dimensions in the spiritual realm. Okay, so now I'm going to share after that, seeing that vision of the Virgen de Guadalupe, I felt very much in peace, and I felt like there was going to be a life change, a major life change, and it was. My after that in 2014, um, I solidly completely changed my life completely from what I was doing and began helping other people on a spiritual path, healing them through readings, listening to them, etc. So it was definitely life changing. Then a few months later, I had a dream. It was before 2014 ended, and the dream was very prophetic. Now, I don't know yet if this is future oriented and I had a vision of how I die, or this is just something that how, Spirit wanted me to see the vision, which is very prophetic. But basically, I was inside of a hospital and I was in the operating room and it was very white. The lights are very white and very bright in the operating room in a hospital, and I was lying on the table, and I remember that I suddenly was out of my body, and I was in the break room, the lunchroom where the doctors were, and there were two Caucasian male doctors, and they were eating sandwiches. They were eating their food. So I remember seeing them, and then all of a sudden they had the intercom come on. So I don't know. I'm not familiar with hospitals and how the ORs are set up, or the lunchrooms. If doctors have like a special lunchroom, but in this dream I actually saw that, and they rushed to the OR to me. Well, then my body. I remember I was outside of my body, and I was on a hall, and suddenly I was in a big hall, and the hall was very warm with golden light, and it had like a brown cherry wood kind of sides to the walls. Then I approached a big door, and the door was very tall, maybe about 10 feet, again 10 to 14 feet, and it was an arch door. Like, if you know what an arch is, this kind of like a rainbow, kind of, like an upside down U. That's the arch, and it was a big wooden door, and it had the metal clasp. And as I approached the door opened, and what I saw was it opening. And again, there was gray bricks. I don't know what it is with these places that I saw, but there was like gray stone, cobblestone bricks, steps, and it opened up immediately to that. And then on each side of the step in the horizon, I could see the clouds, like if you were looking at the sky. So the door opened up to the sky, to the clouds, and it was very beautiful, very peaceful, and I remember that right in front of me there was a white cat with blue eyes, entirely white, completely, and it just stopped in front of me, and it was so cute, and I remember looking at it. And then on each side of these steps going down, there were red rose bushes, completely adorning each side of the brick. And I remember seeing the angels, and they were in the clouds. They were in this space, and they were singing. They were singing very melodically and very beautifully, and they looked like stars. They didn't have like a shape of a human. That's not what I saw. I only saw like a energy, like a star, the shape of a star glistening in the sky, but during the daytime. It was like during the daytime, and it was so beautiful, the clouds and everything. It felt like it was just like heaven would, of a sense of warmth, peace, entirely comforting and just beautiful. A sense of knowingness, a sense of just completely being enraptured in peace. There was no fear, there was no pain, nothing. And then I remember waking up from the dream and feeling very, very at peace. And I also asked at that time my spirit guides why I had that dream, and they explained to me that there was a reason. Again, the reason was because the type of work that I was going to do, that I needed to know that the existence of these realms and of these places is very real, and through my work, I would be helping a lot of people get to heaven, or to the place that would be the higher realms of the spiritual realm. So those were the visions that I had of these places that people would call heaven or hell. So now that I've shared that with you, a lot of you that would be tuning in still to this podcast would be asking, is it for real? Am I being for real, or do I really truly believe that this is for real? And the answer is yes, it is. And I would never sit here behind, a computer and do a podcast without it being authentic, and unless it's something that I have experienced myself, I would never share something like this, because first thing people are thinking is that you're loony, or people that are skeptics or that just wouldn't believe it, and then there may be some people that are religious that do believe this, they do believe it, but it was very, very, very real to me. Now, other experiences that I've had in dealing with, being that I now know my mission here on earth is not just to help heal people, but also to combat forces of darkness, however and wherever they are. Demons don't like me. I've had dreams, and I've seen them in dreams before, and again, I've casted them out. I have seen them in people, and the look of them when they are possessed, because possession is very real, let me tell you. It's very, very real. I had an experience with a professional, a medical professional. This was maybe in 2017, 2016. I want to say it's 2016. And I was in the office with my mom, and I remember that this person entered the facility, entered the room, and it looked at me with this face. I mean, the doctor, the medical professional that I had seen was someone that was typically very joyful. This was an older man, very joyful, always had a good disposition. And never had anything against me, and there was no reason to have anything against me. That day, whenever he went in, I do not feel like it was himself. He wasn't himself at all. Completely, he wasn't himself. You could feel it, the energy emanating from him. When a person is possessed with a demon, how they look at you, when the demon is taking control over the person, this is a look of complete, and every experience may be different, but what I saw was that it looked at me. The person entered the room, or the demon rather, inside the person, and it had full control over the person. It looked at me, not at my mom, even though she was the patient. It looked completely at me with anger, beyond human anger. It was like beyond hate. It was so vicious, almost like when someone is snarling at you, like an animal is in attack mode. That is kind of like the face and the facial expression it made towards me. The eyes were bulged, and the eyes were like glazed over. This person just was like absent, and the nurse wasn't in yet with him. She hadn't come in yet. He had just walked in and sat down. He kept looking at me like this for a couple of minutes, and then he looked at my mom, and he also had some bad attitude throughout the whole visit. Afterwards, when he walked out, my mom turned to me. She says, "Did you see how he looked at you?" And I said, "Yes." "Did you see that?" I said, "That's not a human stare. That's not a human." And then later on, I explained to her what I felt it was, and got validation from my own spirit guides. But again, demons do not like me, and they don't like anyone, I think, that works with God, or works with the higher realms, and that works in elevating consciousness and humanity. So again, people that would be asking me, are demons for real? Well, duh. I mean, if angels are for real, what makes you think that demons are not? And I'm not trying to be rude or condescending when I say that, but it's like common sense. And I saw it, and I've seen numerous things that it's too much. I don't want to share all of this, because it is in a podcast, and I don't want to make this video like an hour long sharing, or 2 hours long sharing all of this. And I can do a different, slideshow, or a different presentation, a different video podcast of this later on. But yeah, I mean, I've had numerous experiences. So I am sitting here when I do these celebrity psychic readings, and I'm telling you that evil exists in this world. I'm not talking about just like people doing rituals, human beings doing rituals, Satanism, I'm talking about actual influence of the demonic, of the angelic realms. Both of them influence humanity, and both of them, it's a wager for souls, basically, here on earth. So it's not just about helping people here on earth to find a way. It's a way of helping people here on earth to help save souls, and to I was talking with my friend Pam, my bestie, and she is someone that's very spiritual as well. And I was sharing this the other day with her, in fact, and we talked about the movie Constantine. So those of you that haven't seen that movie, Constantine, with Keanu Reeves. He's one of my favorite actors. I love Keanu Reeves, and he portrayed, and the way that movie was done is so accurate on many, many ways that you would be shocked. Like, I feel like the person that dated the producer or the writer, they may have had some kind of insight. But there's a scene in the movie, for those, I don't want to ruin it, but for those of you that have seen it, it is an older movie. I think from the early 2000s, I'm not sure. But there is that movie, it does show Keanu when he goes into, or Constantine, that's his name on the movie, when he goes into hell. He leaves his body, and he's seeing hell and what it looks like. It doesn't look exactly like what I saw in my vision, but again, there are different levels, and I do believe that you can see it in different ways depending on how your soul is evolved, and depending on what specific level or specific area that you are in, but you can see it. But I've looked at that movie several times. I've seen it, and it's very accurate in many, many ways, and I really didn't feel crazy after seeing that. And I've heard some people have had their own experiences. So for those of you that are listening out there and that you've had a similar vision as I have shared today, just know you're not crazy. I do believe you, and you're not alone. These are very much real, and they very much do exist. And this is not a reading or not a podcast to strike fear or to be fear-based. Because that's never my intention. As a spiritualist, I know that, we never should live in fear, and I'm not fearful, but knowledge is power, and knowing that forces of evil and good do exist and coexist in the world, and that there is a specific reason why we have evil here on earth as well. It's like the yin, the yang, it's our shadow side and our light side. We all have good and evil inside of us to a certain degree, but we have free will, and we have the ability to elevate our soul, our consciousness here in the physical world, so that way when we do get ready to cross over, we are in heaven, or we are in the higher realms, and we've done the work. And that's why I say be very mindful of what you do here in the physical world. Hurting someone else and knowing that you've done it intentionally can have repercussions in many ways for your soul. People just think it's just karmic, but it's not just karmic. It's what you have to live after, because like I said, our souls are eternal, and when we cross over, when we die, or we shed our physical body, life goes on. It does go on the spiritual realm, and our souls continue living in the spiritual realm, because we are eternal, and there is accountability. Do people stay in hell or stay in this level forever? That's where I would say no. That after they have served the purpose of feeling what they've caused to others, or experiencing this agony themselves, then they are taken to a different location by higher level beings, or I would call them archangels, and they are eventually taken in. After time, some of them can go and acclimate into the higher realms, but never the top realm. And many of these souls that have done really, really bad, some of them will stay forever in this place that is like hell, and never will reincarnate here on earth as well. So yeah, it's it's a big thing. I hope you found this podcast and this topic, very interesting. If there's any other topics that you want me to discuss, or spiritual podcasts, like I have a playlist of spiritual development videos and of podcasts. But if you have any other topic that you would like for me to maybe discuss with you, please leave it in the comment section below. And I want to thank you once again for your support. If you are interested in booking a private reading with me, you can visit my website at www.raymondguzman.net/shop. If you're on your cell phone or mobile phone, some of you may not see the pricing. You may have to like scroll down on your cell phone or mobile phone, and then you'll see it at the very bottom, because then I have some verbiage and descriptions of the type of readings that I do. Also be sure to purchase a copy of my book, Starseed Footsteps. I do discuss heaven, or angels and demons and hauntings and what happens to our souls when we die, etc. Like, there's a lot of different spiritual topics, and if you're new to your spiritual journey, or you may have been on your journey for many years and you have some questions still, I feel like my book, what the feedback that I get from a lot of clients is that, and a lot of people that have bought the book, that it's very much a helpful tool. So if you'd like an autographed copy, you can also order it on my website under the shop section. However, if you want to just get a regular copy, you can get it off of Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com. So blessings and love and light. I hope you have a happy new year. I may be out of the office on December 31st through January 1st. So like 2 days, and then I will resume back with YouTube videos. But I will have this weekend your weekly forecast, horoscope forecast, and your weekly twin flame forecast out. So big angel hugs to each and every one of you. Thank you once again. Blessings and love and light.